Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Human Game series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we are taking a look at 3 games from the Oxford versus Cambridge Varsity Chess Match that happened just a couple of weeks ago. The first game, our main game that we're looking at, is the game between Nugget Jayawarna and Imogen-Camp. Nugget is playing for Oxford and Imogen for Cambridge. And this was a really dramatic game. Now, these two players had played before a couple of times, and I was actually slightly surprised by the opening that that Nugget chose, because actually Imogen had they'd played this opening twice, and Imogen had scored 1.5 from it, and looked very comfortable each time. So I was kind of expecting something a little different from White. But anyway, we got it, and we got sort of a pretty standard Queen's Gambit declined Carlsbad variation. Now, Black plays these lines in many different ways nowadays. Imogen went for the pretty good old-fashioned way of doing it, Knight f8, and then played the move Knight e4. So Bishop takes e7, Queen takes e7. And now White's got a few possibilities. You can play ideas like taking on e4 and playing Knight d2, and then afterwards, looking to play f2 to f3. But in general, Black seems to be doing pretty okay in those lines. White played b4, which is the standard minority attack. The idea is, what's the minority attack? Well, you've got these 2 pawns on the queen side running forwards against these 3 black pawns. The idea basically is that you can liquidate A and B for these A and B and leave Black with a weak pawn on c6. Many different ways of playing it. I was expecting Knight takes c3 in this position, actually. Queen takes c3 and then Bishop g4. This has been played a number of times. The idea is that after Knight e5 you can play Bishop h5, and if you want to go b5 with White, then there's this little move c5, which is always quite nice. Just obviously you can't take on c5 because the e5 knight is hanging. But what Imogen did was quite sharp in actual fact. Played the move Knight g5 here. Knight takes g5, Queen takes g5, b5, and I sort of thought that this move Knight g5 wasn't really the best, because it just gives White for free this move b4, b5. And yeah, I mean, Black's play against the king side is not enough to compensate for that. If you go a move like Bishop h3, then f4 is the key resource. It actually just wins a piece. But it wasn't as clear as all that. The way that Imogen's played it, slightly unusual. Normally, Black throws in a6 and White goes a4, and then all of the pawns get exchanged. Here, Black has kept her a pawn on a7, and actually this does a pretty decent job of covering quite an important dark square, the b6 square. So when White plays b takes c6, you can't play rook b6 and invade and attack the c6 pawn. You can't play knight a4 to b6 either. So I think probably if you're going to play this sort of plan where you're just letting White play b5 takes c6, not exchanging off the a pawns is quite a good alternative. And Imogen just played the move h5 here, which is a novelty, but a pretty decent one. Just looking to get the h pawn to h3, weaken up that White king side. So b takes c6 takes, knight a4. h4 played. The idea, of course, is if queen takes c6, we just go bishop h3. So White played f4 in this position, and now queen f6. And here I thought that maybe White made a little mistake here. I mean, I've actually played this sort of structure before with White, and the key to it was playing this move f4 to f5. What does f5 do? It really blocks in this bishop on c8, also holds back this knight on f8 as well. And well, once you've got this pawn on f5, then well, you can start looking at maybe breaking with e4 at some stage. I had this in a game against Smbat Leputian in the Alista 1998 Olympiad. And although I blundered and eventually lost that game, it was actually a very good position for White, a very good setup. So I would really recommend rook b e1 in this position, followed by playing f5. White played rook f e1, And after Imogen's knight g6, white followed up with bishop takes g6. Now it's an interesting idea. I mean, we sort of thought about this in the commentary, because getting rid of that knight of this knight means that white's got the knight left, and well, you've got a path to the e5 square for the white knight, and getting the white knight there would be really, really good. Only, the chance that you're really going to achieve that is quite small, because as soon as the knight comes to d3, we played bishop f5, and we swap off the knight. So yeah, wasn't really sure about it, to be honest. And one of the little problems with it really is that once black gets in h4 to h3, then you've got some very weak light squares all over the board, but especially in the centre and around the king side. Probably the position is around equal here, but somehow white found it more difficult to play than black. And gradually the advantage sort of came. So rook a8, king f2 was a bit of a strange move there, because g5 happens and we're just opening up the king side. And gf is a big threat, followed by g5. So white played king f1 here, rook e4, queen c3, rook e6. Nice play here. The rook's attacking the d4 pawn, so it means that after gf, ef will most likely be impossible. And this rook is protecting the pawn on c6, and it's also obviously able to move over to the king side whenever required. So, I mean, black's pieces are absolutely beautiful here. And, in terms of rating, Nugget is rated almost 300 points more than Imogen. But this was really looking like a Cambridge win. So, at this stage of the match, we were really thinking, wow, it looks like Cambridge is really just going to power home in this match. So queen d2 was played, queen e7, king f2, queen f6, king f1. Both players were quite short of time now, and they were playing without increments, so quite tough to to finish it off. In a normal tournament game with increments, then you can make a couple of quick moves, build up some time, get some more time to think. Here, not at all. It's you've got a certain amount of time and nothing more. So this was probably a slightly tough little thing, really. I don't imagine that the players are particularly used to it. I certainly haven't played without increments for many years. So g takes f4, g takes f4, and now queen h4 was played by Imogen. I mean, I think actually that g5 was even stronger somehow. I mean, we're simply playing g takes f4, and this is looking very strong for black. But queen h4 doesn't ruin anything at all. Queen f2, queen g4, rook e2, rook g6, king e1, and this was really the moment when when the game turned, because in the commentary room we were looking at this move queen h5, just basically stepping back in order to allow the rook to g2, and we thought this was going to be really strong, probably winning for black, and the engines kind of confirm it. It's not like clear winning, but a typical variation, for example, is queen f1, rook g2, rook takes g2, takes, rook e3, rook h3, and queen f5, and black's just in complete control here. It's at the very least, you're going to pick out one pawn on f4, and probably many more. Let's have a look at another variation. King d2 possible, rook g2, queen e1, and then something like rook e6, and we're just coming round to g6. And if you try and do this, queen h2, rook g1, rook g6, again, still some work to do for black, but black is really in complete control. So yeah, I mean, this was really just one more good move, and really I think that Imogen would have been well on the way to winning this one. But unfortunately for Imogen, she played queen g1, and after takes, king d2, takes, king f7, king d2, we were actually in an equal rook ending. I'm not going to show the rest of this rook ending because it was rather, I suppose, a little bit traumatic also to watch somehow, because Imogen played really well for a long time, held the draw, and then the tension came, crucial games all towards the end, and somehow Imogen went wrong in the rook ending. Nugget played really well, and won the ending in the end, and that was enough to hold the match for Oxford. So a great grinding performance there from white, but kind of unlucky for black, because really she was just more or less completely winning, at quite a late stage of the game. So that was a really interesting, really absorbing game. We were watching it, right until the very end, and really living with all the ups and downs of that rook ending. But in the end, win for Oxford, and just goes to show, in these sort of matches, you should never agree a draw, really, because anything can happen. And it's the tension, the shortage of time, playing without increments, all that sort of stuff. It just mistakes can and will happen, and sometimes you can get unexpected victories from it. So that was a really interesting game, but also a very interesting opening concept there from Imogen as well. The next game I want to have a look at is the Board A game between Omid Atara and Aditi Agarwal. And I was kind of rooting for the black player here, Aditi, because actually she went to my school, Sir Joseph Williamson's mathematical school. In my day it was for boys, but sixth form no longer, so girls also take part in the sixth form, and that's what Aditi did. So I was really rooting for her, and actually for a very long time it looked like we were heading for a black win on this board. So after d4, d5, bishop g5, Aditi played the move f6. If you don't know it, looks kind of like a beginner's move, but actually it's the strongest line for black. And Peter Wells, a very big Trompovsky expert, said that he thought it rendered 2 bishop g5 against 1 d5 more or less unplayable. That's maybe overstating it a little bit, but black certainly just really gets going by gaining space. So bishop f4, knight c6, threatening e5, knight f3, and now probably the best line would have been to play just g5 here. Bishop g3 and then h5, or even just to play g4, knight h4 and then e5. It's basically black feels like black is playing like white, basically, and taking control of the centre, and white sort of scrabbling around. It's not so much worse for white, but still, it's not something that you'd really want to play in the opening. Aditi played a move that's been played a fair amount as well, slightly less accurate, but also quite decent. Bishop f5, e3. And now again, g5 would have been a really good idea here. h5, h4, g4, knight fd2 and e5, and in we go again, just gaining lots of space and getting ready maybe to play queen d7, castle queenside. So e6 was played in the game, and now white played the move knight h4, just grabbing this bishop. And in principle, if white gets the 2 bishops, then that would definitely be a gain there. Funnily enough, there's a very sharp move that black can play here, which the engines point out. This move g5, knight takes f5, and then gf4. And this knight is a little bit awkward on f5. The main line they were looking at here, the engines, was queen f7 check, knight e7, knight c3, queen e8, and everything gets exchanged. Obviously, e takes f4 allows knight takes d4. Basically this is a pretty even position. But g5 would have been a nice idea. After knight g7, knight f5, then probably white can start thinking about being just a tiny bit better here, because we've got the 2 bishops, and also light squared bishop's a little bit weak, and there's some slightly sensitive light squares in the position. Leela wanted to play, or Ethereal rather, wanted to play the move g4, which was quite nice. Knight d6, just make sure that this bishop is safe, and then you play c3 and knight d2 and bishop g3, and you just sort of hang around with your 2 bishops and claim that that gives you a slight edge. Nothing really serious, but quite reasonable. White's move bishop d3 I think was less successful. Queen d7 and bishop f5. Just a little bit of a shame, really, to just give up the bishop pair like that. And this pawn structure, double pawns, is quite well known for black. That you play like this. You see this actually in the London system when the black position is being played by white. And these double pawns like this with a half open e file just means that you clamp down very nicely on this e4 square. It's a wonderful outpost for a knight later. And it also gives you, some opportunities to expand this kingside pawn mass. So, this didn't feel like a really good plan for white. And then knight d2 was played, and you could even have started playing with g5 now. That would have been pretty dangerous. Castle played, castles, again g5 would have been quite decent, but h5 is also dangerous. h4, and now bishop e7. Might have chosen to play rook g8 first, just to play g5. You sacrifice the h-pawn, but it doesn't matter. You just keep on going somehow. But bishop e7 was also, pretty good, and c4 g5, and this looks really dangerous for white. G takes h4 was played. It's f4 would also have been very interesting. That was the move I was looking at. Or simply maybe just rook hg8 again. The thing about playing moves like g takes h4 is that it's nice somehow to delay your attacking moves for as long as possible, because the earlier you play them, the more white anticipates or can see what you're going to do, and the easier it is for white to anticipate on that. And it doesn't necessarily make a concrete difference, but there's definitely a chance that it can. So keeping flexibility, keeping your intentions covered until the last moment, that's normally the best approach if you can manage it. But as it turned out, this wasn't bad at all. Bishop h4, rook dg8. Queen f3 played, rook g4, bishop g3. h4 attacking the bishop, bishop f4. And this was really the moment that it turned. And really, just like on its head, really. Because if black plays the move rook g8, just threatening rook takes g2 check here, then black has got a superb position. Black's clearly better, probably winning here. I think most of the engine games I was playing from here were ending in black wins. Yeah, I'm not seeing a single draw actually. So it's really, really good for black, this. But unfortunately for her, Aditi played the move h3, and after g3, suddenly the whole thing turns on its head, because now this h3 pawn is in the way. It's blocking the counterplay that black wants along the h file, and meanwhile, white's just got counterplay on the queen side, and this central pawn is attacked, and we've got this sort of convergence of pieces against the c file, and as it turned out, the game just turned almost on its head, and a few moves later, Aditi was just facing a losing position here. King h2, everything's blocked. That if we could get rid of that h-pawn, black would deliver mate. With the h-pawn in the way, it's all wrong. And here after knight a5, everything went wrong there, because after knight a5, we've just got rook takes c7. So that was really unfortunate for Oxford. Looked like again that the black here was well on the way, cruising to victory, and then all of a sudden just one wrong concept on the king side, and white was winning. So that was a big turnaround there, and obviously crucial in Cambridge's attempts to win the match. Actually, in general, the match was really topsy-turvy. I thought from the openings that Oxford was really well ahead, and then it turned and it looked much closer, and then at some stage you thought that Cambridge was just going to run away with it, actually, but Oxford gritted their teeth and came back and got some turnaround wins. And then the final game was perhaps, sounds a little bit cruel really, the dullest of the 8 games. To be honest, the other 7 were very exciting. This was an interesting draw, but a relatively short one nonetheless. This was Onion Stefanovic against Dominic-Miller. And I was a bit surprised actually, because I was expecting maybe a big sharp winner French, because Dominic's normally playing 1e6, but here he played 1e5, and we got this Italian Gambit, or Scotch Gambit I think it's called, and an opening that really when I was little and when I was young professional, it was really seen as completely innocuous, really nothing at all. But yeah, I mean, Engine, Modern Play, they've turned a lot of innocuous openings from that era into something quite dangerous. And there was a very good book by the English grandmaster Gawain Jones, the Coffee House Repertoire, Volume 2 in this case, that did a huge amount of analysis on this and made a really good case for it. I could definitely recommend that to anyone wanting a slightly unusual white repertory. Definitely have a look at what Gawain has done, because it's amazing. After bishop b5, knight e4, knight d4, black can play bishop d7 here straight away, or bishop c5, as Dominic played. Bishop e3, bishop d7, takes. And now I think both players started to show that they were maybe not quite there with all the move orders. I imagine that Dominic had kind of prepared especially for the match, and I don't imagine that Onion would have been able to anticipate this. Castles is slightly inaccurate. Knight d2 is best, just to try and chase away that knight on e4 straight away. And after castles, then queen e7 is actually the most accurate move for black here. Just already attacking the e5 pawn, and well, basically white has to go rook e1 to set up some latent threats to defend it. And actually, white would really like to have this rook on f1 to support the march of the f pawn. So actually, this move order is just making white move its pieces to squares he doesn't really want to. But after bishop b6, everything's back to normal. f3, knight g5. And now this was another little inaccurate moment, I think, because f4 is Gawain Jones's recommendation. And after knight e4, you've either got knight d2, which is the main line, or knight c3 is very interesting. I mean, basically, you're just challenging that black knight, black's best piece so far, getting rid of it, and then afterwards you're hoping that your centre kingside pawn majority is going to mean something, or that you can possibly somehow gain control of this c5 square and really cramp the black pawn structure. After queen d2, black played h6, which looked really weird to me. But actually it's one of the main moves. But in actual fact, this is not a crucial line for white, and black has a number of good ideas. Actually, there's one move that the engines prefer above all, that's never been played before, and that's the immediate f6 here. The idea being that after ef you just take back with the queen, because bishop g5 allows queen takes d4 check. Very clever. Well, Dominic played h6, and then after knight b3, looking to take control of the c5 square, he played f6, which is a novelty as well, and actually a very sensible move. And yeah, we were a bit confused in the commentary. We couldn't find any way at all for white to do anything. But that's fair enough, because the engines say there isn't any way to do anything. Black's completely fine in this position. Actually, in all fairness, probably white should be the one thinking about just somehow making equality here. So after ef6, queen f6, knight c5 was played. Probably not the best idea. I mean, probably the best way would be to play knight c3, castles, and then knight a4, and try and get the knights into those dark squares in this way. It gives just a little bit more control for white. After knight c5, yeah, I was looking in the commentary at castle queenside. I like that one very much. It's a pretty good move. There are many other moves that could be played. Even queen takes b2 isn't so crazy. After knight c3, you can play queen b4. When somebody suggested this, I dismissed it in the commentary as crazy. But in actual fact, the engines say that this is completely possible. But the lines are pretty weird, it has to be said. Bishop f5, very sensible move. Just get the bishop out of attack, and you're preparing to castle kingside rather than queenside. Bishop d4, queen g6. The check doesn't mean anything. Rook e1. We just go king f7. So there's no point in giving that check. So knight c3 was sensible. Castles, and now rook ac1. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, rook ac1 feels rather passive somehow. You sort of feel like, wouldn't it be better to just try and get my pieces active and just give up that c2 pawn, because we'll have compensation on this c6, c7 pawns anyway, and if the c file is opened, I'll be able to use that. I mean, the engine was recommending f4. in this position, knight a4, and then you just give up the c2 pawn like that and just claim, well, I've got a knight on c5, these pawns are all stymied, so, you know, it's not going to be so bad for me. And I think that's a very reasonable idea, really. Rook ac1 felt a little bit passive here. And, well, in the commentary room, we were baying for h5 to h4 to h3, and I think it could get very dangerous very quickly. Yeah, you know, I really... I think that black's definitely got a nice initiative here. But rook e8 was played, which is also very decent, of course. Knight e2 played, and now again we were really looking for h5, and we thought actually that white needed to find this very concrete move h4 to stop this pawn moving, and yeah, and get something like equality after here. Still probably a little bit better for black, I think, but white should be fine. One interesting thing I seem to remember is that the engines were also looking at this move bishop h3, and after knight g3 playing h5. You know, also a very interesting idea here. All sorts of pressure happening on the white position, and again, you know, white just needs to be really accurate to hold this. So yeah, I mean, I think there were definite ways of putting white under pressure here. But okay, black played bishop c8, white played knight g3. Again, h5 is what we wanted, you know, followed by h4 to h3. And f4 we thought was maybe the best line, but then knight h7 from black. And yeah, this is still coming in, you know, the knight will come around to f6 into g4 or to e4. You know, I think black's still got quite a nice position here. But after knight f7, white played a4, and black played a5, I think, and offered a draw. Was it there, or was it after a4 immediately? Maybe, I think it was after a5 that a draw was offered, and yeah, the players agreed to draw. Yeah, still, I mean, black's missed a lot of chances, I think, but still, you know, it was quite an unclear position. I mean, if, you know, from the white point of view, you might say, you know, black was better, and black's now not so much better anymore. So, yeah, maybe the momentum is with white. On the other hand, I do think that, you know, accidents are probably more easily going to befall white than black if black, you know, really starts playing aggressively with h5 to h4. So, yeah, would have been chances still, but the players agreed to draw and retired to the bar to watch all the other players and all the thrills and spills that emerged. There we are. Hope you enjoyed that that little review of some of the highlights of three of the other games. They kept us entertained, you know, throughout the day. Just going to do one more video on the Varsity match, and that's the biggie. That's the best game prize winner between Emil Porvisky and Jan Peter. So that'll be the next video, and then that'll conclude all 8 games from this event. Yeah, I really enjoyed the event. Really thought it was excellent, and I think, you know, when you consider that well, all of these are young players, but to be honest, they haven't played much chess in the last 2 or 3 years. All been concentrating on academia. So you know, to play chess at this level, this high level, you know, on very little practice and with this tension and with the attention that the match gets, it's pretty tough and very, very praiseworthy. And yeah, you know, really a lot of respect for what everyone is doing in this match, and a lot of respect that everyone, you know, tried so hard and made such an amazing match of it. So there we are. If you liked the video, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new Chessable course and book, Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, full of stuff you really need to know about engines, how engines play, and also working with engines. But otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully see you for the next video. Thanks for watching.